Hello, my name is Tim Dwarnacek.
And I'm his brother Tom. Welcome to our presentation today. Tim and I are co-founders of Bringing Israel to America, affectionately known as BIDA. BIDA is a spiritually based program where we've integrated a lot of our spiritual teachings that we've learned for 30 plus years into a very, very exciting couple relationship seminar. Now, this seminar is not just for married people. This can be people that are thinking of getting married, people that are dating. It could be a father, daughter, mother, son, could be two siblings. It's for anybody who wants to get a deeper understanding, a more conscious understanding of what's happening in our relationship.
So, in today's seminar, what we want to do is present the 11 agenda items that we use in each seminar so that you can decide, make a good decision whether this seminar might be something that you want to attend.
Yeah, and what we're going to do is we're just going to, for time's sake, we're going to read the 11 agendas, and then we're going to flesh it out a little bit about what we're hoping that you can get out of this one, that one. And you can already see we have scales up here, and we're going to talk about what the meaning of polarity is in a relationship. So to start off, Tim and I, we think about why does a couple want to do this seminar, okay? Well, and we don't want to work with really dysfunctional people, okay? We're looking to work with people who have a pretty good relationship but want to take it up a couple of notches perhaps.
Yeah, people that are committed want to enhance their relationship to understand each other a lot better, if not a little bit better. We're looking for people that want to do better in their regular relationships, like Tom says, and with any person that you choose to do this with.
Yeah, and to become more conscious, because what we're going to present to you is it's just not two people in a relationship. From the outside it looks like two, but when you zoom in, there's a lot more people in that relationship. So it's an opportunity for you guys to raise your consciousness level about when Tim and I are having a conflict, is it just Tim and I, or when you zoom in, is it something else? And it is something else, and that's what we want to talk about.
So what we like to do is people that attend our seminars, we send them an introduction and an individual presentation form describing their reasons for wanting to attend a seminar, just things that they think are important. That is the first homework assignment that they get. The other thing that we recommend with all of the people that we work with, David Deida, who is an author, The Way of the Superior Man, that book is very useful for all of our seminars, but I think it's useful for couples to study that together.
Absolutely, and the guy that told me about this book says men and women, everybody should read this book. The other thing we do with a handout that we send out is we have a list of masculine traits and feminine essence traits, and we ask them to circle each and every one of them of the traits that they're comfortable with and that they see regularly in their lives, and we'll show you with these scales why we do that.
So that's the beginning. Everybody that attends gets that. Number two, we have a questionnaire. And the questionnaire is the individual is coming to the seminar with their perception of what is masculine essence, feminine essence, and self-essence, because these are the three entities that we talk about and flesh out during the seminar.
So those three entities could be battling, and once you understand all three and their nature and dynamics and qualities, a couple can easily identify who's having a problem here between the six of us. So it's kind of exciting and fun.
Yeah, because most people, when they go into therapy with a therapist, there's Mrs. Smith and Mr. Smith, and they believe that it's just those two that are having the relationship. We've decided to enhance that, where you've got Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, and the self, and that's just for the guy. And then we've got her with three, and we'll describe that in a minute as we present the scale
model. So what we're going to show you is the one handout. The man and the woman figures out his or her ratio between how much masculine essence do I have and how much feminine essence. And so right now these scales are all pretty balanced. And so what we're going to say is this is the guy, and he decides he's got about 70% of masculine and about 30% of feminine. Now some guys are way too masculine and they've killed their feminine essence, so we're going to put one more in here. Now, for this relationship to create a spark and an arc and have a lot of passion inside, this man should find a woman with the same ratio but the opposite, where she has 70% feminine and about 30% masculine. And you see, once you have that polarity set up, these scales will be balanced. What happens in a lot of relationships, unfortunately, is the guy isn't doing all the things the guy's side should do, so the woman begins to strengthen her masculine, which will then strengthen the masculine over here, and all the passion leaves. It's like two guys living together.
See, what happens is, if this isn't balanced, there's a lot of negative effects that happen, and Tom's already talked about a decrease in passion. But the negative effects could be either individual, me, Mrs. Smith, or the couple, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Another thing about not knowing the masculine and the feminine, sometimes the intentions that the person has in what they're saying or doing is totally misread and mistaken. Also, sometimes, like Tom said, in some relationships, when a man isn't exhibiting enough of his masculine essence, which forces the woman to do that, sometimes that guy can actually feel a little bit castrated in the relationship.
Yeah, she'll start wearing the pants of the family, so to speak, and then he'll lose his masculine side and give it up to her. The other thing to think about here is if a guy is totally negating his feminine essence to the point of death almost, and then he's negated it with his wife, because whatever this man does to his feminine, he's going to do to his outer feminine. That's the tragedy here. So he's totally annihilated his feminine, her feminine, and now he's more prone to getting DUIs, having affairs, having gambling problems, pornography problems, because he's wanted to resuscitate his feminine in all the negative ways.
Yeah, and I think about this, and this is something that Tom and I talk about, and to everybody that we discuss this with. For a man, a male, to truly understand the woman that he's with, if he doesn't understand his feminine essence, which is his essence, he's going to have a very difficult time understanding the needs that the woman wants in a relationship.
Right, right. I'm actually working with a couple now, just started, and the man is not very aware of his feminine side. And when his lady friend acts insecure, because he doesn't know how to address his insecurity, he acts it out in negative ways, he has no idea how to deal with her insecurity. So the best way to do this with this model is first get your ratio, understand, do I have the proper ratio? Ideally speaking, if he's 70-30, she should be 70-30, but the polar opposite, to keep this spark going in the relationship. If not, they can either work on that, because we have exercises that we hand out to strengthen his feminine or to strengthen her masculine.
Yeah, so the exercises that we've developed, if people are willing to do that, a man can get more in touch with his feminine essence, and conversely, a woman can get in touch with her masculine essence, not male or female. Really, truly understand that as you're listening to this.
Yeah, it's not about gender, so please let that go. So the next part in these seminars, we hand out a really cool thing that Tim put together to help them identify their three essences on the inside and their partner's three essences. And then we have them draw lines, who's liking who and who's not. For instance, I have a friend, she's really a cool lady, but my masculine side abhors her masculine side. He has no respect for her masculine energy. He likes her feminine essence, he likes her self-essence, but he has a real hard time. Now, if you're conscious of this, and I've used this in my office working with couples, it takes a relationship, a problem, into a whole new level of working with things. So this friend that I'm talking about, if we were in therapy together, let's say, I would suggest that she work more on developing her masculine side a little more, getting her male muscle going. The other thing is, any couple that we work with in the office has to do this seminar rather quickly, because we don't want to spend time in a 1-to-1 hour session talking about all this. So if I get a new referral like this couple I'm talking about, I'm suggesting and supporting them coming to our next seminar, which is in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and you know, Tom talked about the male developing more of this or the female. One of the things that we have on our website is a male mentoring group. If you as a man is realizing that you're lacking there in your masculine essence or even your feminine essence, the 10-session lecture series will open up a whole new way of you looking at yourself, your relationships, and the world in general.
Yeah, so this is a new dynamic model that Tim and I put together that I am not aware of any other people in our area or stuff that I read that are looking at couples and relationships in such a way.
Yeah, the word dynamic, when you think of the word dynamic, we've all heard about that. According to Webster's dictionary, dynamic means relating to energy or physical force in motion as opposed to being static, which means there is no movement. Also, a force producing motion or change. So when we talk about dynamic technique, we're talking about all these relationships that are constantly moving and changing.
Several times a day. So, sometimes, check your mood during the day, and if you become conscious of this model, when I'm feeling that sense of tranquility and calmness, I know I'm in my self energy. Mm-hmm. If I'm feeling negative, judgy, sour, I know that's my feminine essence, but the sour side. If I'm feeling very competitive, or I want to push through things or focus on jobs, or tasks that I have to do, that's my masculine essence. So I'm aware of this throughout the day. Couples need to be doing this to be able to identify what's the real issue here.
Yeah, you know, Tom and I attended a presentation this morning, and the young lady that was in charge of getting the food for the presentation, her and I had a brief conversation, and she said when she was talking to this person that was making a mistake with the food, it was like two sour feminine essences going at each other. And once the young lady realized that the other one was there all by herself, she became a little more compassionate toward her situation. And I quickly told her, well, that was your self, because the self knows we're all connected to each other. And I could just see the expression on her face, like, wow, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, and so if you have that sense of connectedness to other people, just know, for instance, that's one sign that I'm in my self energy. Okay, if I feel like I'm separate and alone and you're over there and I'm over here, you're not in your self energy. So what we where we take this next is agenda number 5. Tim and I came up with some role playing that couples can do. So we wrote a couple of scripts, okay, and they can do it in the group if you want to, but usually there's not enough time. And we have two people talking, and what we have them identify is it the masculine essence, the feminine essence, or the self in those conversations. And it's a real eye-opener, because a lot of times in relationships, you're not connecting properly. And what that means, like Tim said, this young lady today, that was a cat fight going on with one another. And so she stepped back into herself to be able to change the flow of that conversation, because that was probably going to end poorly.
Yeah, so they felt more connected, and the woman had more compassion. So what we try to do by identifying the three entities, which is needed at this certain time? Is it the masculine essence, the feminine essence, or the self? And we've just come up with some examples that I came up with. My daughter is named Bridget, and when Bridget is having issues with a gentleman or the job or whatever in her life, she wants to have a father who's compassionate and sensitive and willing to just listen. So I know that I need to shift into my feminine essence, always being aware that my masculine needs to be there in case some logic needs to be thrown in there, but it's mostly feminine. My wife and I might be doing a plumbing project or some other household project at home. I want to be in my masculine as I'm under the sink dealing with the plumbing issue, but I also want my wife being more into her masculine, as I'm needing tools, holding the light in place. So I want more masculine there. A sunset. My wife and I love going to Florida for our holidays, and when my wife and I are looking at the sun as it's going into the ocean, I want to be more there as feminine to really enjoy the beauty of the sunset and the awe of something like that. Tom and I attended a luncheon, a funeral luncheon the other day, and what we came away with afterwards is everybody at the table felt like it was more self-to-self conversation. That connection was there as we were talking to each other. Would you agree?
Yes, and the self to self in this case, where it was a lot of authenticity, because the self is very authentic, and it also sees the bigger picture. When you're in your masculine or feminine essence, like this young lady this morning with the food problem, she wasn't seeing the bigger picture. All she wanted was the food.
And the last example that I like to use is disciplining children. When I'm disciplining my child, I need to be more into the masculine, but also having some feminine essence there, because I don't want to be too rough on the child, be a little more sensitive, versus the father that we had. He was just pretty much into his masculine. Or if the mother has to be the disciplinarian, instead of saying, well, wait until your father comes home, she needs to step it up a little bit with her masculine to make sure that the discipline is being dispensed appropriately.
Yeah, I'm laughing over here because I'm thinking, which father? The father in her or the father in him? In our generation was wait till your dad gets home, and the women have evolved quite nicely in the last 45 years, thank God to the women's movement, in that so the woman can tap into her masculine side, or if there's a problem, she can tap in instead of being the damsel in distress. So what we're trying to explain here, guys, is in this seminar, you're going to come away with this looking at your relationships, all your relationships, in a whole new different way to start you onto a path of becoming more conscious of what's going on in me.
Number 6 on our agenda is the dance that we do. Don't be afraid about this, because it's a very good assessment tool for you and for us to look at it. It's also a way to kind of get out of your head. Dance and movement, there's not much logic in that.
No, it's more right brain. You get into your body. And what we do is we have music that's specifically set for moving the feminine essence, moving the masculine essence, and then moving both, which is the self essence. And at our last seminar, it was interesting, two of the ladies that were there, when we played the feminine essence music, they were having a ball, they were moving and swirling and everything. But then when they had to dance the masculine, both of them had a real difficult time actually hating it, because they don't like to be in that a lot. So it's a way to get out of your head to see if you can easily move in from your masculine and feminine and then stay in the self. So you want to transition between each of these easily. And a lot of people have difficulty with this, especially certain guys, but we just don't want to pick on the guys, because some women could have trouble with this too, tapping into her feminine. So it's a way to assess yourself, and for Tim and I who are watching, who's able to get into their masculine, who can get in their feminine, who can be in their self energy.
Excuse me. We've got a workshop coming up at the end of May, and there's a couple that's going to attend, and she has to exhibit much more masculine in that relationship than most couples do. And I'm kind of sitting here waiting to see if that individual is going to have difficulty with the feminine side of the music versus the masculine.
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about that. The next thing that we do in the group is we actually talk about values. Values is probably an underused term in our country. We all just get attracted to what we see physically. We don't even think about the values. Tom's going to give you a percentage. If you're in a committed relationship, what do you think the values need to be equal to on each end? 50%, 60%, what do you think it has to be? And I'll let you think about that for a second.
So if you're with a partner, ideally you want to have at least 80% in common with your partner. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you're with somebody who doesn't value saving money, and you happen to value saving money a lot. You're not miserly, but you value having money in the bank. Well, if he or she's got a different value system, you're going to have some trouble there. The same thing we see with socializing with couples. One partner may want to socialize a lot, and the other partner is pretty much of a homebody in that. That's going to create friction and difficulty in your relationship. So especially for young couples that are just dating, who haven't committed yet to a marriage, or people thinking about getting married, we give them this value clarification handout, and then rank ordered from 1 to 10, and they can't see what their partner is doing until they're done, and that can be quite shocking. So values drives the ship. That's the rudder to your life ship. I value health in my life. Now, that sounds nice, right? But here's the deal. If you zoomed in on my life, Tom works out every day, he eats healthy the majority of the time, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, goes to the doctor, does things to take care of his health. I value health, and my life exhibits that. So by understanding your values, you can take a look at where are the conflicts perhaps coming in. You can also avoid a lot of unhappiness in your relationship, because if you're not on the same page, at least 80%, you're going to have a lot of unhappiness in that relationship.
Yeah, and Tom said what he's talking about, values are observable. If you say, for instance, that you value sense of community, well, we should see you doing things in the community. They are observable. So what we really believe is important is to have that value clarification in the workshop, and maybe for the first time in a couple's relationship, they're really looking at this either with shock or, God, we're right on the same page.
Or awe.
Or awe.
And I'll give you the last example, parents. Let's say you value non-drug usage, but now you got a teenager who values drug usage. And you know what I'm talking about. There's going to be lying, there's going to be unhappiness, there's going to be conflicts all the time, because that teenager does not value what you value. And you can try to shove those values down that kid's throat. It's not going to happen until they decide to value it.
Yeah, so that's why if you're raising teenagers, you want to be talking about what your values are, so you can bring them onto that child when they're younger, not necessarily teenage years.
Yeah, because if their friends help them decide their values, it's really too late for a while. Number 8, and I'm just going to read this: godliness and the forms describing the Creator's attributes and why it's important to emulate. Now, what we're talking about here is in Judaism. They talk about, and Christians know this too, we are made in the image and likeness of God. And, as a young Catholic, it's like, what does that mean? God looks like me, I look like God. No. It means God's values have to be our values. We have to emulate our Creator, and that's how you create heaven on earth. Kindness, generosity, visiting the sick, compassion, forgiveness. Those are God's divine attributes that we have to emulate. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, one great example is what a heck of a role model you would be for your kids, for your family, for society. How many people even understand and know about what are the divine attributes?
And think about when we're talking about the masculine and feminine essence, hopefully you are aware, and if not, I'm going to make you aware, our Creator has the masculine and feminine attributes. So by you understanding and developing yours, you are also emulating your Creator the same way, but with the masculine and the feminine.
And if you haven't clarified your values yet, you can take on these divine attributes that we're going to share in the seminar, and just say you like the idea of kindness, being kind all the time, because we need more godliness in our country, in this society. You know what we're talking about. So we're going to give you an opportunity to learn a little bit about some of Scripture that maybe you didn't fully understand or appreciate, being raised in whatever denomination you are, and a terrific value system to integrate into your lives.
And for your children, for everybody within the family household, wouldn't it be great if everybody got into forgiveness? Just as one of the divine attributes, especially the kids that are always acting out towards each other. Now, one of the other experiential things that we do other than the dance movement is literally a trust walk. This is a 20-minute walk where one of the partners is blindfolded and the other one is leading them within nature at our office. There's no talking allowed in the trust walk whatsoever. You're totally blindfolded and letting go here of your partner.
So what you can assess doing this, because if I asked you, do you trust your partner? You might say yes. Well, let's blindfold you and have your partner walk you between a busy street
Yeah.
or into the nature area and that. So this is a non-left brain way of looking at your relationship. And the same thing about leading. Do you feel comfortable being the leader in the relationship? You could say yes. That's why Tim and I have always liked experiential types of therapy, because you experience it instead of thinking about it. We've never wanted our seminars to just be left brain talking. So if there is mistrust in the relationship, it will show up rather rapidly during this exercise.
And your whole body will feel it. That's why we call it an experiential. When you have to put that blindfold on and your partner is the one that's going to lead you out of the building for 20 minutes, your body's going to tell you, maybe I don't trust this person as much as I'd like to.
Yeah, or as I thought I did.
So whatever it is, if it's mistrust, it's going to be amplified. If you have trouble letting go to your partner, surrendering, that's going to be amplified also, just by doing a 20-minute trust walk.
Yeah, and not just your partner, but if you have trouble letting go at all, you're like to control everything. This is a really brave opportunity to work on that a little bit. So number 10 we get into is meditation, and we talk a little bit about different forms of meditation. Meditation is the new stepchild in the mental health world and in a lot of different worlds. Meditation is simply put an activity that allows us to focus, become laser-like, and it can be a prayer meditation or simply observing a candle, preferably with music on, but it doesn't have to be. Meditation can increase the intimacy in a coupleship. Now, how is that, right? You're asking that question. I know I would be asking that question. If I become more focused and more attentive as a person through meditation, how much better am I going to be connecting with my partner or my kids, etc., etc.? So it actually creates more intimacy, deeper intimacy, because it allows you to be more present in your world.
Yeah, and there are other benefits of meditation as more and more of this is being uncovered in the mental health field. Stress reduction. Most of us live in that world that is just go, go, go. We've got all the technology, everybody can get a hold of us no matter what. It's a way to kind of lower our stress. Many people will come home after work and have a martini or two or three to do that. This could be an interesting new ritual that people can do either individually or as a couple just to reduce the stress. It is known to improve health, not only mental health but physical health. We are all way too busy today. It can strengthen the masculine essence in both the feminine and the female in the relationship and the male, because when you're meditating, you're really focusing on whatever it is you're focusing on, and just by doing the meditation on a regular basis, you're developing some strength in your discipline muscle.
And we all could use a little bit of that discipline sometimes. The monkey brain that we have that's chattering all the time, that doesn't go away when you meditate. That's a misnomer. Everybody thinks you meditate, you become mindless. Unless you become the Buddha, of course, and good luck with that. What it does is it allows you to have that going on, but to stay focused on what you're meditating on. So it's like scenery going by. It trains your mind to be more focused on what's important instead of all the stuff, like when you're walking in a big city like Chicago and you're looking around your head rubbernecking all the time. It's also one of the things we talk about is prayer meditation, and I just found something yesterday, as a matter of fact, online about families that pray together before their meal. And there's scientific proof to this. Water crystals can change their shape. If I yell at water, it gets real dark and an ugly shape. If I love water, if I give it positive gratitude, the water changes to something positive. So by having gratitude and giving thanks before your dinner as a family, okay, slows everything down, improves the food you're going to eat, and probably opens up the communication lines a lot more. And we know for a fact now that families that have dinner regularly and pray before a meal, there's a lot less drug abuse at those families for the kids.
And that's what you're focusing on as parents. You don't want to have one of those kids that are getting arrested, always in jail. So think about developing that as a family value. You know, before meals, everybody participates. No technology, no TVs, no telephone calls, just taking the time to do that. I think as a family, you deserve that time.
Now, doesn't this sound exciting already? What a wonderful seminar we've created. Well, there's one more piece to it. Our country really drops the ball when it comes to grief. Okay, except if it's a major grief like a death. Grieving losses is essential to stay in the now and the present. If you've got stuff in your past that you haven't grieved yet, you're still tied in. There's like cords that keep us pulling us back in that. So in the grieving that we do in the seminar, we have everybody bring something to represent their loss, and then they talk about it. Whether it's a picture, an object, doesn't matter what it is. You got to be willing to let it go at the end, because we're going to burn it and let the grief go away. And so in the grief ritual, it's an assessment tool for Tim and I to see who's in touch with their feminine essence, because it's the feminine side of us that's going to express the grief in a grief ritual.
Just think about grieving for a second. When we grieve, we can let go of these burdens that we're walking around with, these mistakes that we made in the past, these errors that we made with other people. It allows us to get rid of issues that we might have been hanging around our neck for years. Incidences that occurred, could be something with a neighbor, could be something with a pet. We just hold on to all this negativity so long, it does burden us and weigh us down. And this is just something that we incorporated into our workshop because we want to eventually have you open your heart so it always stays open. So the grief and all the loss that we experience, you can stay open-hearted no matter what happened to us.
Yeah, unresolved grief blocks the heart, and what the research has shown there is heart attacks, because what you're doing emotionally affects your body. By grieving efficiently and properly and effectively, you become more energetic. Here's the thing, when you're blocking stuff, keeping stuff down, that takes psychic energy. So by grieving whatever you got to grieve, and then learning to do this as a family, like a family ritual, when a pet dies, what do? You come up with a grief ritual. We have a dear friend that's going to be selling his house, and he's had it for about 12 years, and I suggested when they finally make the sale, all of us go over there, because we're all attached to this house for different activities for 12 years, including Thanksgiving dinners there. So when it gets dark, we put up a grief altar out in the backyard, and we all can allow ourselves to tap in to say goodbye to that house, as I did to a house I owned in 2000. I did this for, and it didn't even feel like I lived there anymore. It also is going to show people how to normalize grief. Grief is a very normal human experience to go through with any loss, whether it's the loss of a season, the loss of our health as we get older, our abilities and that, the loss of anything, the kids going into maturity land, becoming young adults, so you may be grieving them as kids.
Yeah, I'm thinking about something personal right now. We're going to have an empty nest syndrome. My daughter has moved out with her boyfriend, and my daughter this weekend is going to be taking her two cats with her. So there's going to be a loss there. So when the cats leave, I'm going to be probably, truthfully, very tearful, very sad to see them go, because they're a big part of our family, those pets.
And see, what Tim just explained is he's conscious of the need to grieve. Now, he may not need to set up a grief altar or anything, but he's going to allow himself to grieve that loss, to talk about the loss and the feelings that go along with it, how much he misses them. And then now if he gets to be too much and whiny, I'm going to have to slap him, but hopefully we won't have to go there. So what we presented today is a quick little induction into our one-day seminar. Typically we go from 9:30 in the morning to about 5:30 at night with a lunch break in there. And the people that have done this seminar so far walked away with shaking their heads like, oh my God. Okay, it was because you're not aware of this stuff in your relationships.
The couple seminar agenda, a couple relationships, because it's more than just for couples, you can actually download this off of our website. You can print it off for yourself if you want to show your partner, your friends, your child. This is something that you can download. It's just the agenda though. So Tom and I, being the co-founders of BIDA, have decided to do this seminar for couples to explain what these scales mean. It will enhance your relationship, I can guarantee that. And as a man or a woman, it will make you better in the relationship. At least you'll understand where the conflict is coming from.
And we're all about consciousness raising. That's my life's purpose. As I get older, it's more and more clear. All that means is become aware and more aware of what's really going on. Step back and look at things in a more conscious way. Otherwise, we're just dogs and cats and monkey brains.
So if you do have questions about whether this seminar is for you, you can email us, you can get a hold of us by telephone. If you're all in, you just said, I want to do this, we need to do this, we have a registration page on our website, and you could pay the fee, and then we know that you're in, and then we can tell you when the next couples relationship workshop is.
Right, we don't have the dates up because we never know when we're going to do this. And basically what we're waiting for is if we can get 5 or 6 couples, we'll book it. Tim and I are pretty flexible. And we're so committed to raising the consciousness of American people that that's our goal. You know, that takes precedence in our life.
This is our new life purpose at age 62 years old. So thank you for listening. Hopefully this is something that appeals to you and you might want to attend.
Bye.